Sycamore Street, like any other suburban neighborhood, was a place of quiet, tree-lined streets and families who waved politely to one another. It was the sort of place where children played freely, and the biggest excitement might be a new family moving in. But one autumn evening, as the orange and red leaves crunched underfoot and the shadows grew long, something changed. Mia was walking home from her friend Sarah's house. The sky was painted in the deep purples and blues of twilight, and the streetlights began to flicker on, casting a soft glow on the deserted street. She enjoyed these walks, savoring the solitude and the cool breeze that whispered through the trees. But tonight, an uneasy feeling gnawed at the back of her mind. It began with a faint sound of footsteps behind her, so soft they might have been imagined. She turned to look, but there was no one there. Dismissing it as a trick of the mind, Mia continued on, quickening her pace slightly. The sound returned, a little louder, a little closer. Her heart began to pound. She looked back again, and this time she saw him. A figure, cloaked in shadow, stood several yards behind her. He was tall and thin, with a face obscured by the darkness and a wide-brimmed hat pulled low. The air around him seemed to ripple with a cold that pierced the autumn chill. Mia's breath hitched in her throat, and she broke into a run. The footsteps quickened, matching her pace with an almost rhythmic precision. Panic surged through her veins as she darted through the streets, turning corners and weaving through yards, desperate to lose her pursuer. She could see her house in the distance, the porch light a beacon of hope. Just a little further, she told herself, pushing her legs to move faster. But the footsteps never faltered, the shadow never wavered. As she reached her front door, Mia fumbled with her keys, her hands trembling. She could feel the stranger's presence looming closer, the coldness seeping into her bones. Finally, the key slid into the lock, and she burst through the door, slamming it shut behind her. Her parents, startled by her sudden entrance, looked up from the living room. "Mia, what's wrong?" her mother asked, concern etched on her face. Someone was following me," Mia panted, locking the door and peering through the peephole. The street outside was empty, the shadows deep and silent. She shivered, the memory of the stranger's presence still fresh and terrifying. Her father grabbed a flashlight and went outside, checking the perimeter, but found nothing. No sign of the man, no footprints, no disturbances. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. That night, Mia couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak and rustle. Her mind replayed the events, the sound of the footsteps, the figure in the shadows. Who was he? What did he want? Days passed, and the incident seemed to fade into the background of normal life. But Mia couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every now and then, she would catch a glimpse of a shadow in her peripheral vision or hear footsteps when she was alone. She became hyper-aware of her surroundings, always on edge, always alert. One evening, while walking back from the bus stop, Mia felt it again, the chilling presence, the sensation of being followed. Her heart raced as she glanced around, but the street was empty. She quickened her pace, determined to get home before dark. As she reached her front porch, she saw a small piece of paper tucked under the doormat. With trembling hands, she picked it up and unfolded it. Scrawled in jagged, uneven handwriting were the words, "I'll be watching." Mia's blood ran cold. She bolted into the house, locking the door behind her. She showed the note to her parents, who called the police immediately. They promised to keep an eye on the neighborhood, but there was little they could do without more information. For weeks, Mia lived in a state of heightened anxiety, always looking over her shoulder, always on guard. The stranger didn't appear again, but the fear lingered, a shadow that refused to lift. Then one night, as she lay in bed, she heard the soft creak of a floorboard outside her window. She froze, heart pounding, listening intently. The sound came again, closer this time. Mia's hand inched towards her phone, ready to call for help, when a face appeared at her window. The wide-brimmed hat, the the shadowed features, it was him, the stranger. Before she could react, the window shattered and a gloved hand reached in, fumbling for the lock. Mia screamed, scrambling out of bed and towards the door. She threw it open, racing down the hall as her parents rushed out of their room, alarmed and confused. "He's here! He's here!" Mia shouted, her voice trembling with fear. Her father grabbed a baseball bat from the closet, and they all headed downstairs, barricading themselves in the living room while her mother called the police. The minutes felt like hours as they waited, the sounds of footsteps and breaking glass echoing through the house. Mia clung to her parents, her body shaking with terror. Finally, the wail of sirens pierced the night, and flashing lights illuminated the windows. The police arrived, searching the house and surrounding area, but the stranger was gone. They found the window broken, muddy footprints leading away from the house, but no other trace of him. It was as if he had melted back into the shadows. Mia and her family spent the night at a friend's house, too frightened to stay in their own. The next day, they installed a security system, cameras, and reinforced locks. But the sense of safety they once had was shattered. Months passed without another incident, but Mia never felt truly at ease again. She avoided walking alone, always made sure to be home before dark, and never let her guard down. The stranger had left an indelible mark on her life, a lingering reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the most unexpected places. To this day, Mia wonders who he was and why he chose her. And every so often, when the night is still and the shadows grow long, she can almost feel his eyes on her, watching, waiting. But she never sees him again. And for that, she is eternally grateful.